Hi guys, Redneck Computer Geek and John here. We're going on a freebie hunt today. John actually doesn't know what we're after, so we're going to see his reaction when we go see what this freebie looks like. But I'm going to post you guys a couple of pictures to look at. I actually asked the guy straight outright, I was like, I don't want to be rude and look a gift horse in the mouth, but that looks really good for a freebie. And he was like, no, it's been sitting for a couple of years and it is what it is. And I just want to give it to you guys. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. We can go on a hunt in order to go grab it and see what we can do. A lot of you guys reach out about like, do I want a machine or freebies or things like that? And so I've created a map that I will post a quick little glimpse of here, but I'll post at the end of this video of where John and I usually tend to cover for what we travel. The cost of gas nowadays and everything else, we don't cover as far as we used to. But if you've got something in that coverage zone and you want to reach out to us, send us an email using the email address down below. I think that's enough babble. John, we should go get a freebie.
Yeah.
That looks way too good for a freebie, but, we'll go see. Normally we talk about a small Mr. John, but actually this gentleman's name is John too, and he's a pretty decent-sized gentleman. He built this up with a couple of buddies of his at work, did some hopping up on it, put some nice brand new tires onto it, and managed to punch it over on himself once or twice, and so it really hasn't gone too many places. Now, the engine was not turning over correctly when we got up here. I really should have filmed the fact that I was pulling on the pull cord, but what it ended up turning out to be is, I bet once we pop this cover off, we're going to find some rust in the belt setup here. As you can see, the chain is a little bit on the rusted side, and I'm going to bet that probably either the very drive or the driven was stuck, because now it turns over fine. Well, I say that, but then it glitches and gets stuck again. There it goes. Yep. So I'm not going to monkey with it any further because it's definitely been sitting, and if the valves were open, then it might have some surface rust on the inside. So we're going to get it loaded up, and the first thing we're going to do is pop that spark plug out and put some PB Blaster in when we get home. If you've ever been curious about the straight outright size difference here, that is your standard Amazon $400 Oxy Earth. That is this MB200. Kids toy? Adult ride. Although, John says he fits. I think we're negotiating right now on whose bike it is. Anyways, we ended up with some parts. We've got extra belts. We've got some extra 40 chain. We've got the usual extra gas tank that just tried to take my hand out. Got both a front and a rear Honda tire for this thing. It's got Sun-Fs that are 19.7/8, if I remember right. They've still got all the center nubbies. They've literally not been used. One fender, great condition. Other fender, not so great condition. Brakes. Brakes are importanter. They're adjusted to the maximum of the adjustment, and when you grab the handle, you grab all of the handle to have brakes. Might have to fix that a little bit. Flywheel key. We noticed right here that there is a flywheel key. Now, by naked eye, that looks like it's probably like a 4-degree key. But this baggie here says OMB Warehouse 8-degree. Also, there's a jet kit there, and there's an aftermarket jet kit there. So I'm betting this has been monkeyed with, and I'm betting the Venturi has been changed out. So we'll have to figure out whether the flywheel is degreed or not at some point. John checked in, and you said the flywheel has rust on it, right? Okay, so it's probably a stock flywheel. The fender has been loved. We're using the term loved. This has been loved, which they always are. So it's had some riding, not bad riding, but some riding. And when we come around here, it has been upgraded to the torque converter. So on these right here, if they have the jack shaft and you eliminate the jack shaft and you go to a torque converter, you can easily hit into the 40 mile per hour mark without too much of an issue. So this I was expecting. It looks like it's a generic Amazon torque converter. Nothing too overly crazy. But let's get to the heart of life here. If I go that way, it's happy. If I go this way, uh-oh. So yet again, that way, happy. This way, not so happy. So something there is we're going to work with. We're going to disconnect the chain. That way if this thing comes to life and it leans out and goes full throttle, we don't put this through the back of my garage. Because at the size of this thing, like, it probably could. I mean, look at this. Look. I can't even get it all in frame versus itty bitty Oxy Earth. Big MB. Oh, also, got to get the welder out and fix that before we take it out for a ride. Okay, so since you're Mr. Play with all the bicycles and you're getting really good at master links on bicycle chain, get the 40 series one off of there. Get the 40 size chain master link off of there. Because you said you already found it, right? Yep. Okay. And we'll see if it's rusted to the point we need to replace it, or whether we can still reuse it by soaking it in used motor oil. I mean, we only have like a spare 12 feet worth of chain, so let's totally be cheapskates and just put it in used motor oil. You know, John, I tell you all the time, do your job right the first time or else it might bite you later. Yeah. I want you to cut open this milk jug in order to put that chain in, and this came out of a bag you washed. So if it smells bad, it's your own problem. There's some used motor oil over in the corner. Cut that off and go dip it in that. Got it. Alright. On this side of things, we pulled off the torque converter, and yeah, it was stuck right there on the belt and rusted in place in there. And I don't think it ever actually got anything more than the factory graphite. There we go. So those are supposed to have dry graphite put on the inside. The amount that's in them from factory usually will work perfectly fine, but I prefer to redo them. But you're here for the spark plug. Is it going to be rusted? That is not rusted. Okay, well now I'm starting to get a little concerned. So let's grab this and let's stick it on here. Okay, let's see if we hear bad noises. So before we could go that way, yep. Okay, I can hear the spark plug vent. Okay, now let's go that way and see if we hear bad noises. Yeah, right there. Yep. That was a hard hit. That was a hard nope for some reason. This has surface rust everywhere on it from sitting. There's a chance that that hard hit actually could be the flywheel magnet is rusted to the point it's actually hitting the coil. I'm going to pop that side cover off just because I wanted to see whether this thing had a timing advance anyway, so why not? So we'll pop that off and see. Just so you know, John, The internet is going to tell you I am a horrific cheapskate because once we're done soaking that in there, we're going to pour it back into the container. Because that is used motor oil that we have been using in this poor little experimental engine, and we've tried like plastic connecting rods. We had a wooden connecting rod that ran for like 5 minutes before it exploded, 3D printed side covers. So, I mean, you know, it's experimental oil at this point. It's really expensive. We can't get rid of it. We're going to have John rotate it over, but this looks like it's way too close to me. Go for it, John. Interesting. Go back around. Yep, right there. That looks like it's got coil bind. I think we're going to pop that loose, stuff a random piece of cardboard in there, and see if that might have been our problem. One note on this, everything on this bike that is rubber is eaten. I don't know why, or whether maybe it's because this came from coastal Maine, but go for it, John. Aw, I think I got it right. I'm so proud of me. Are you proud of me?
I guess.
I guess. That needs to be John's t-shirt in the shop. I bet that probably would pop off if we give it some go-go juice. Because I don't currently trust the go-go juice in it. We're going to drain that next. While we're waiting for the gas tank to drain, the petcock valve actually does work. That's the gas cap. And that is the entrance into the carb, which is entirely rusted and I'm pretty sure not passing gas. I think we're probably going to try some Bottle Baby first and then a carb rebuild. Because remember, that carb's got, aftermarket Venturi and probably an aftermarket jet tuning it in. Let's add fuel lines to the mix, because those black stripes are little chunks of rubber sitting in the bottom of this container that came out of said fuel line. This is a hard one to get in video, but I can see the flywheel key is an entire solid key. So I'm not sure what the flywheel key is we have in the stash of parts, but that looks to be solid. I'm working on pulling this carburetor because, let's face it, if that looks like that, this carburetor's not running. This is an interesting stage 1 adapter. I haven't seen one that looks like that before, so I don't know where that came from. And we're missing something from handlebar down to throttle plate because John's over here rebuilding. The one that was on this bike was all rusted inside and not moving so good and everything else. We've got a cable left over from when we built the Coleman for drag racing. So John's over here very tired face looking, getting it swapped over. That top was clean. And then I opened the bolt on the bottom of the carburetor. So let's see what we got going on in here. Oh yeah. The usual yucky that would have gotten sucked right up in there. Yeah, there's nothing passing through that whatsoever. So I got to clear all that back out. And if this doesn't come to life, I will probably throw a Hipa carburetor on here. I'll post a link for them. I use them on everything. They've got idle adjustments, compatible with all the Honda jets. See, this right here does not have a tunable idle jet right there. And that is a big deal as far as this kind of stuff is concerned when you start in on this. Because the idle jet right there is not big enough once you start upping the ante on these engines. Carburetor looks like it's going to rebuild, and we've got some carburetor in a can here. I can feel the valves are sticking just a little bit, but the compression seems reasonable. So let's give it some carburetor in a can and see if we hear some noise. I'll take it. That'll run tomorrow. Let's go eat some supper. Let's just say John shot several minutes of video clip of us figuring out that that petcock valve works opposite of any other valve that we own, and therefore we shut the fuel off. But then we managed to get the fuel to work, and it would kick over, it would idle, but then it would be stupid and bog no matter whether you had choke on, choke off, whatever. So we've popped it off, and we're on carburetor drain number 2 for this project. And I was like, you know, if all of that caca got into there after this clean out, then I should really check the idle jet, which is this doohickey here. And this doohickey is supposed to be absolutely slammed into there. These should be hard to remove. You should curse at people. And this one just popped out as if it was nobody's business. And so I'm worried that maybe that was bad. Actually, I think it's even missing an O-ring. I think there's supposed to be 3 on there. So I'm going to go check my stock ones and dump one in there and see if this is what the problem is. Look, I know, a Hipa carburetor is $16 and I would have already had an up and running engine. But then I wouldn't have had John learn what a headache this is and how stupid it is, and that we should just put the Hipa carburetor on. But we're in the denial stage currently. I stole an idle jet out of one of the Duramax 208s that we drag raced last year, and here we go. I actually think the idle jet that came out of that probably was fine, but the circuit was just filled with caca that we knocked loose from cleaning. Hopefully it doesn't happen twice. But idle jets are cheap. By the way, if you have to upgrade your idle jet for a stage 1 kit, NR Racing. I don't know why I'm screaming over the top of all of the engine noise. Now, on the other side of things, John grabbed the graphite. The blaster graphite is what I highly recommend. He blasted this down. They've been sitting here for 5 minutes in order to be able to let it flash off. While we're here, let me see if I can show this on video, because I've seen this as a question a couple of times. This set of weights on this, they're not the same on both sides, even though they really look like they are. There's an aggressive ramp side that goes towards the bike. And then there's the... No, wait a minute. I got that backwards. There is the non-aggressive side that goes towards the bike and the aggressive side that goes out. So you got to make sure you put these on because they're directional. There's a ton of things you can do wrong with a 30 series, but you can do a minimalistic checklist in order to make sure everything's correct. First of which is make sure that triangle is on that side of the nub. That's your first check. Your second is spacing this out. If you take like an old square like this and you pop it against there, you should basically be able to go flat right across into the rear pulley. As you can see, we can see a little bit of blue there. If we really wanted to be whatever about it, we could shim this just a tiny bit more in order to be perfectly flat, but that should be more than good enough to run. Now, where we're on perfectly flat, the belts are directional. As you can see, there is an arrow on them that points in for a decent belt. The reason it has that arrow is on this belt here where it's Chinesium and we got to figure it out. If we look down one side, we can see that it's angled. We look down the other side and we can see that it's perfectly flat. Angled, flat. The flat side goes against the flat side of the pulley when you go to throw this together. You want to make sure that that has graphite in underneath it. You want to make sure both halves have graphite. And when you go to zip this thing together, make sure that this is actually locked in correctly on the end, because it will zip together while it's off slightly with an impact. And then next thing you know, all of a sudden it'll spin, that comes loose, and you end up part of a YouTube comic video when somebody gets hit in the nuts. John says, pro tip, when your dad is a cheapskate and uses used motor oil on chains, cut the end off on the milk jug so that you can pour it back into the used motor oil container. I'm not sure if I should be proud of you or offended. Good! It'll do a burnout.
Wow, that is a long streak.
First impressions. She does not like to idle roll these tires because they're so aggressively nubby. You got to be at half throttle, probably about 10 to 12 miles per hour, and it's fine once it's up on the nubs. I've almost dumped it 3 or 4 times just trying to make little tiny turns or whatever. It doesn't like it with these tires. Probably going to put the original tires back on. Something is restricting it big time. I know with this tooth count, this size tire, and a stock engine that this thing should easily be punching 28 to 30 mile per hour down through. And if this thing's doing about 22 to 23, I'd be really surprised actually. I like it. It is an aircraft carrier to turn around, but it is extremely comfortable. Yeah, that's basically my thoughts on it. I know a lot of people are going to say that we should take this drag racing, and I will debate the idea of putting a 439 or a 440 in it and building it and going drag racing. But that's money in the budget we don't really actually have totally, so I'll tell you what. I will post up the RCG Racing Amazon wish list, and I'll put the correct tires for this in there. And if somebody is willing to get us started with at least the correct tires to go drag racing, I will do it. I will stuff a 440 in this thing. We'll go full big block, 40 series torque converter, and haul it down through the drag strip. Anyways, we're gonna see where we go from here. John wants to try to run it down the driveway, so he's gonna put his big giant spaceman helmet on and then go from there. It will wheelie with my weight on it if I sit back like this. I've managed to pop it twice. If I'm into it like this, it won't wheelie no matter how hard I hit the throttle. Just something to keep in mind. Alright guys, have fun, and thank you for supporting these builds. And like I said earlier, there'll be a map right here that's going to pop up on our coverage area where we buy, swap, and sell in the Mid-Coast, Maine area. Have a good day.